What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. So the Clippers are in the middle of a nice little win streak right now. They've won 7 games in a row, I believe, and they're playing the Mavericks tonight. I'm actually recording this on Tuesday, but you guys will see it Wednesday. So they play the Mavericks tonight. That'll be a good test for the Mavericks are a great offensive team and everything, but the Clippers are working. I didn't really think they'd be working and clicking so fast, so let's dive into it. So why did I not think that the Clippers were going to be good this early on post James Harden trade? We talked about when the trade first happened that adding James Harden to a team where guys like Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, even Paul George to an extent are players that thrive with the ball in their hands, and now Paul George has been pretty good about making adjustments to his game whenever needed. But I was like, I just don't understand how these guys thrive unless the obvious thing happens where one of these guys decides, okay, I don't need to have the ball to start every possession. I can kind of be a secondary option on a play. And James Harden has started to translate into that, and I didn't see that coming. If we look at these last couple games for the Clippers, they've beaten some pretty good teams. The Denver Nuggets, the Warriors. Jazz are kind of pushover. Blazers are kind of, the Kings are good. Obviously, the Warriors, the Knicks. Pacers aren't an easy out ever just because their offense is so dynamic. But you see the points. The points are high in these. Some of the defensive games, too, have shown up a little bit. Some of these scores are just crazy though. I actually want to give a little bit of credit though to James Harden. First of all, you know what? Let's just talk James Harden first. Let's look at Harden's last couple of games. 20 points, 15 points, 28 points, 35 points. The assists are high. There's a ton of guys to help him get assists on this team, plenty of capable shot makers. Before we even go into the scoring of James Harden, I want to give credit to the defensive play of Harden. I've actually seen him like tipping passes and stuff in game, which is kind of cool. Normally he's just kind of sagging off and waiting for the offense to start again. But he's actually been playing defense so far, and it's not even like James Harden like defense. Like it's like quality defense, and we've seen spurts of him like this in the past, not ever very long spurts. So we'll see. This is a 7-game sample size that I'm pulling from, but from the games that I've been watching, Harden's been a lot more involved defensively. It seems like the guys in the team are forcing him to kind of change his role a little bit. The off-ball defense is there right now. The on-ball doesn't look bad, and surprisingly, offensively, he's not the first option coming down the court. So we can see here just his Clippers stats: 17 points, 7 assists, right? Like honestly, like that offensive number is probably going to continue to go up as he starts to get in shape again. He gets more comfortable with the team, and I'm guessing they're going to kind of push him into that second scoring role. I think Paul George is more than happy to let other people score first, considering that's where they're going to be more valuable. But what the Clippers have done so well is they're letting Kawhi really be that first option for them. I'm starting to see where, Kawhi is the first option on offense. He's the one that's initiating a play. They're trying to get him going first in the game. Because if Kawhi gets going, that's the key, right? He is the best player in the team. He's capable of being number one option on a championship team. That's why Kawhi is on the team, right? So when he initiates the offense, gets the ball moving and stuff, you got guys like Paul George who are actually good at playing off ball, right? And now you have James Harden who's also out there that has so much gravity. Like it doesn't take much for Kawhi to get to his spots anyway, but already if he's trying to get to that mid-range or get to the hoop and somebody's having to think twice because Paul George is running around some screen that James Harden is setting and James Harden is just spacing, like you've got a big problem on your hands trying to guard that. There's not much help defense, and Kawhi's not a guy that you can always stop with just one player. If we talk about Russell Westbrook coming off the bench, it still doesn't look great per se. If we look at just some of his past couple games, he's going to get you the points and everything. The 3-point shot it's still Russell Westbrook, right? And the efficiency actually really hasn't been bad. That's good. He should really just be working off of the other guy's actions, maybe being a cutter, things like that, right? He doesn't need to initiate a ton of offense. Go get you some points in transition, right? The turnovers are still kind of high, and that's been a little bit of the concern. You don't want your backup point guard turning the ball over a ton, even when his job is to kind of score. So I'd like to see that improve a little bit, but they're figuring out what they want to do on this team, and I trust trust in their coaching staff to kind of figure that out. But for Westbrook, it's getting better. The sportsmanship and just the teamsmanship, man. I was just watching the Clippers game last night, and just seeing him be so happy for everyone else on the team, I just love it, man. I've always loved Russ's his energy that he brings, if nothing else. You can say whatever you want about his game. I've never been a huge fan of his game. I've always been a huge fan of his effort, though. I want to take a look at some of these plays that Harden was scoring on the other night. As you can see by his shot chart over here, a lot of these aren't necessarily at the rim. You saw the one mid-range shot that he just took right there. That's not a shot you want a ton of guys taking nowadays, but it's mostly shots around the arc here. You see he's not the one necessarily even starting the action either. That one, he kind of rocked himself into a little more because he historically hasn't been a very good catch and shoot player. I want to say he was only a 30% three-point shooter when he was doing catch and shoot. I can't confirm exactly what that is. I could probably find it, but I'm not gonna. But you see when he's able to kind of rock himself into his shot, that's where his shot comes from, right? And a lot of his shots early on with the Clippers were really short and everything. He's getting himself back into shape. That's pretty common. You see Harden getting to the rack, doing his thing here. What I want to see are some of these three-point attempts that he gets later. And obviously he goes on this little streak here where he just starts hoisting them things, and this is when Kawhi's out of the game, right? And he can go do these things, right? I mean, you look at who's on the court now, and this is when, it's James Harden's time to kind of do it. But there you see just space, right? As soon as they leave Harden, they've made a mistake, right? And we all know this. That's not a very complicated basketball thing to dive into, but seeing him be able to just pull the gravity away from some of these other players, I think that's where the Clippers are going to find a lot of success. We'll show a couple Paul George highlights as well, just because why not? This isn't a great game to use as an example because the Pacers' defense is a bit abysmal at times, and you'll probably see a lot of the same when they play Dallas tonight. Dallas, obviously, incredibly good offensively. I'll be curious to see how they guard Kyrie and Luka if they just do a ton of switching because of who they have on the team, if they're trying to keep James Harden away from those guys or what. I'll be curious to see kind of how they're doing it. But just seeing Paul George being able to adapt his game at all times and still get his shot, right? That's an incredibly impressive thing, and honestly, it's just a maturity that you love to have on the team. You see a lot of different guys bringing the ball up and initiating offense in this game, which is kind of cool. This is an interesting lineup he had in there, where he was actually the only guy, and that's something that the Clippers are going to be a little bit spoiled on. Where you hope that all these guys stay healthy, right? But it's kind of crazy that they even threw out a lineup where there's not some combo of Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George, where there's not at least two of them on the court at all times. That seems like something you would do. I'm not sure I understand Westbrook being one of those guys that kind of fits that role, but nonetheless, Paul George and James Harden working great off ball, letting Kawhi be that number one option. They're all playing good defense now. You've got a ton of options on this Clippers team, and I'm very curious to see where this takes them long term. I don't know where this puts them in terms of I guess competing for a title. You'd have to think that, all three of these guys healthy. You got Zubac healthy, right? Hopefully Plumlee comes back at some point. You hope so, and that he's doing well. They obviously have Daniel Tice, who's more than capable of being a nice big man. They have role players galore on this team. This is just a really good team, and honestly, the only question people had is hey, Westbrook, Harden, these are guys that have not always fit in well wherever they went, so how do you make it fit? And I think what we said, they're still trying to figure out where Westbrook fits into things. I still think you love having him on the team just for energy and effort alone is going to win. That might win you a playoff game. We actually saw that last year. But just seeing Kawhi, Paul George, and Harden start to figure this out has been really, really cool. And I can't wait to see what happens. I want to actually, can I rewind this really quick? These are the type of things that I'm talking about, right? Where James Harden's in the game. TJ McConnell can't come over and help. Norman Powell's a more than capable scorer right here. He can't come over and help. Is that Isaiah Jackson down there? I believe Zubac is a lob threat, right? So that's always just kind of a thing where they're going to have to help down a little bit. But just this little bit of action here where they send Terrence Mann and Zubac down, move Harden back up. The players have to shift with them. And in order to do that, they have to move and they can't watch the ball handler. And so that's just enough time for Kawhi to just go get his bucket, right? Get to his operating area and score. And if Kawhi's going early, I don't know, man. Clippers are a tough out any night. So if this is how they're gonna play, they're a title contending team. They really are. And out of all like the big threes and stuff out there, they've got the most defensive stoppers, and like that goes a long way. That goes a really long way, especially come like playoff time. The mid-range scoring is like really valuable because those are some of like the most go-to shots that people get. So when you have some of the most dangerous mid-range scorers and like Paul George and Kawhi, that can go so far. And that's why like the Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant thing's so crazy, because they might be like the 3 best mid-range scorers there are. So I don't know. I'll be curious to see where they go with this. That was a travel by Harden on that one, but just the gravity of having 3 players like that in the court, I can't stress it enough. It's so impressive. Yeah, let me know what you think, y'all. Where are the Clippers going to finish off this season? Where do we think their ceiling is? Do they end up finding a role for Westbrook? What's the ceiling? Where do y'all see him finishing? And let's hope I didn't jinx them and that they can beat the Mavericks tonight. Well, I guess I don't really care. But yeah, leave a comment, leave a like. Thanks so much, y'all. Bye.